venerable monks, teachers, scholars, brothers and sisters. I have no words to thank you for giving me the opportunity to present my paper. Having listened to many insightful papers, I feel that my findings on Vajrayāna Buddhism is like a drop in the ocean. I would also like to mention that my paper is divided into two parts. The first part is a description of two interrelated forms, the chakra and the mandala, particularly the Bhava Chakra and Kala Chakra mandala, more from an ideological, artistic, and historical perspective rather than an iconographical and mythological origination. However, the art of Vajrayāna Buddhism is symbolic, narrative, portrait art, with a theory of aesthetics, and that which can be used. The second part of my paper utilizes the trajectory of the development of the two chakras in order to address some important issues regarding the trend of research in this area. Although there are excellent studies about Vajrayāna Buddhism and its texts and its practices, it has overlooked the historical context for the rise and development of Vajrayāna Buddhism. It assumes great significance as Bhava Chakra, translated as the wheel of life or the wheel of existence. It is a samsara chakra that portrays the cycle of life and death and rebirth. It is said to have been formulated by Buddha himself, who probably drew it with grains of rice. The earliest Bhava Chakra can be found in Ajanta cave number 17 on the ceiling, representing the 12 linked closed chain, Pratitya Samutpada. It is also interpreted as a hub for discipline, rim for mindfulness, circle for perfection of dharma, and symbolizes the perils and pleasures of life. In the canonical version, it is the chakra of rebirth found in the text Mula Sarvastuvadam, translated into Chinese in 18th century AD. In one of the recently excavated early Buddhist sites in South India, known as Kanakanahalli, or the area of Kanakumuni, both the chakras, Dharma Chakra and the Bhava Chakra, which is depicted in relief near the Ayaka pillar, raises an important question. Whether the two chakras, although their form is different, stand for the same concept, or whether the Dharma Chakra, or the law of wheel of law, was derived from the Bhava Chakra. However, in Vajrayāna Buddhism, the Bhava Chakra is divided into three regions in imitation of the Hindu Bhavanatraya, substituting for the physical categories of Bhu, Bhava, Swaha, or earth, heaven, and space. The entire Bhava Chakra, which is in the grasp of the claws of Yama, or Mara in Buddhism, is clinging to life, depicts him with three eyes, with the wisdom eyes upturned, 5 skulls in his head, depicting the binding of cycles that are inescapable. The outer circumference portrays 12 conditions or causations. Inner space is divided into 6, standing for realms of existence that we must pass through. However, outside the wheel are symbols such as Buddha offering release from samsara. The painting from Ajanta of 6th century has influenced later imagery in Vajrayāna Buddhism. The introduction of the pictorial details is ascribed to Nagarjuna, 2nd century AD, under the patronage of Kanishka, who employed artists in great numbers. It is recorded that a copy of the Bhava Chakra was brought to Tibet by the Indian monk Bande Yashi in 8th century AD. Its pictorial construction can be found in the Divya Vadana, where it is supplemented with the daughters of desire, namely Raga, Dvesha, and Moha, lust, ill will, and stupidity, represented in the Indian version as the dove, serpent, and pig, which lie at the core of rebirth. Now, proceeding from chakra to mandala, the word mandala in Sanskrit means lad, the container, manda or essence. It also has many other meanings. In visual language, it is a geometric design intended to symbolize the universe and cosmos, and used in Buddhist, Hindu, and Jain religious arts. The basic configuration of a mandala consists of various combinations of square and circle, as we see it in the basic plan of a stupa. The plan of a stupa is a sacred structured space. The square is the most stable form, denoting upaya or method to attain Buddhahood, a scheme of progressive stages in the ascent to enlightenment, while the circle means completeness and totality. The stupa architecture is a three-dimensional form of mandala whose basic form never changes, although there might be variations in its elevation depending on the cultural context and the symbolism associated with it. The mandalas in Vajrayāna Buddhism are like images. They act as supports for the practice of spiritual discipline. The Kala Chakra mandala is particularly significant in the pantheistic mysticism of Vajrayāna system of Yogacharya. We've heard a great deal about the Kala Chakra yesterday, and hence I will just skip some parts. This is, on the left, is a Kala Chakra mandala painting from 16th century Tibet, watercolor on paper. It derives its unique features and meaning from the Kala Chakra Tantra, whose divisions are in the Laghu Tantra. And the Kala Chakra mandala can be viewed as a deity, palace, and a wheel of time. As a deity, you have the Kala Chakra and Vishwamata, which shows combination of method and wisdom. As a palace, it is a 5-story palace consisting of radiating from the center, from the Mahasukha level to the wisdom level, with body, mind, and speech, and ultimately the wheel of time, okay, which we saw yesterday astrologically. The Kala Chakra mandala is a dynamic, imaginative vision of reality as well as a means for the realization of this reality. It is a conceptual tool for understanding the multi-level interrelation between categories of cosmos and being, symbolizing time as cycles and the chakra or wheel without a beginning or end, seeking to harmonize the consciousness with the divine consciousness. The second part of the paper is about regarding studies on the Bhava Chakra and Kala Chakra, where scholars such as Stephen Tyser have largely concentrated on the relation between textual and contextual divisions, okay, almost neglecting the historical and sociological matrices. The Kala Chakra, developed in India during the 11th century, consists of a translation from the Sanskrit Sri Kala Chakra and its commentary, the Vimala Prabha, forming a massive esoteric encyclopedia. And the basic system is the ancient idea of identity of the microcosm with the microcosm, the soul, which form an integrated entity. The genesis of the chakras and behaviors arose in the context of early medieval India, and it's important to consider socio-political context and factors that influenced Vajrayāna Buddhist traditions and the Buddhist response to Indian society. The growth of these chakras affected the world between the Gupta period, 550 AD to 1200 AD, in the Himalayan regions of Gandhara, Kashmir, Tibet, Bhutan, Nepal, and Tibet. One needs to give particular attention to the successful Shaivite and Shakta orders, Lakulisha, Pashupata, Kapalika, and the Kaula Sampradayas, in terms of tantric practices as well as their contribution and discontinuities. Another area is the loss of the Krishna River Valley and the lower Deccan Plateau to Buddhist institutions. The third area that I can think about is the reasons for the decline of women's participation in Buddhist activities at almost all levels. Research should be done on Buddhist economics, whether the non-profit method of economic sustenance played a role in the loss or decline of the guilds-based patronage to Buddhist institutions. One can inquire into the factors for the growth and development of philosophical and Buddhist monastic establishments, which is one of the areas of my research. We also see a great development of an institutionally based form of Buddhist esotericism when the monk or practitioner became the supreme lord, Rajadiraja and Chakravartin. The Buddhists were probably seeking to transform the political paradigms into vehicles for sanctification. Finally, the historical context for the rise of Buddhist siddhas and its landscape will provide a more complete picture of Vajrayāna Buddhism. Discrete ritual systems such as the fire sacrifice should be given adequate consideration and examined in the studies of lineages and terminology, not to mention that Indian political, military, and religious life profoundly affected Buddhist activity and self-representation. However, for such a socio-historical study for the rise of Buddhism, of Vajrayāna, there are theoretical obstacles that impede our understanding. Buddhist research has tended to avoid the historical evaluation of early medieval Buddhists along with the Hindu, despite the availability of many sources. Secondly, the rhetorical statements of some modern theoreticians has disquieted classical Indological studies. Finally, the epistemological claims to exclusivity by the Buddhist tradition itself have caused some scholars to pause in their inquiry. There have been many excellent studies on literature and philosophy and mandalas, but more research needs to be done for a greatly beneficial for a holistic understanding of Vajrayāna Buddhism. Thank you.